Hey friends, I'm Daniel Nesbitt, and this is Designing a Sans Serif Typeface. And in this episode, we're going to tackle the remainder of those numbers that I left behind in the previous episode. So as you recall, I was really going on how to reuse numbers, or reuse parts, I should say, to create numbers. And in this episode, I'm basically just going to pick up where I left off with that, because I think that was just a good place to start, to be honest. And really, you probably could expect more of the same in this. It's, you know, as far as doing some of these, it's, I think sometimes people really see how repetitive type design can be. And I actually think that's okay. It's cool to see how this process really isn't, I think, is labor intensive as some people would expect. And what you'll notice, especially as you start diving into more complex typefaces and whatnot, is how much a good typeface really just repeats a lot of elements. So, of course, that's just a long-winded way of saying that, you know, we're doing what we're doing here. So, but yeah, to kick off the episode here, I just wanted to basically just tackle this 9. I figured this was a good place to start. You could pick the 6-2 if you want, because eventually we're gonna go back to that, and you know, probably got a few ideas for that I might want to consider. But I think for now, it's just going to be making this look somewhat nice here. And kind of determining as well what kind of shape or style that I want this to take. So I'm actually going to back out of this just a little bit here and zoom in a little bit more. So the tricky part for me with these numbers here is that it is a different style and a different way of doing or designing the shapes here versus the letters. And it's because they kind of come from two different backgrounds. I'm not going to get too far into the history. Frankly, I don't know probably as much as I should about it, other than sometimes they don't always get along. So I find that I struggle just a little bit making this all match up here. So it helps to step back here a little bit and just kind of see where we're at with things. And what I'm particularly looking at here is the leg of the 9. And just trying to figure out kind of where I want this to fall. Additionally, I'm going to look at kind of where this the bottom of the bowl here comes down as well. The biggest thing that I'm debating right now is sometimes when you write a 9, sometimes it curves down a little bit like a G. I don't know that I really want to do that. I really want to see if I can make this straight leg work a little bit here. And that is going to be a little bit of a trick, especially considering that it's sometimes a little bit cranky for me. But we'll get there. We'll get there. So it's just going to be a matter here of lining some points up, and of course it's going to be snapping to some stuff here. I'm a little bit hesitant about merging these shapes together. I'm just not sure if that's what I want to be doing at this stage, but at the same point, it's going to be a situation where I also want to get the shape of the letter right. So I think what I'm going to do here is, knowing that I'm going to be using that 6 at some point, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to paste this over here. That's going to look a little bit funky for a little bit. We're fine with that. And I'm just going to go through and I'm just going to commit to my shape here. And then what I was after was just making this a little bit smoother here. And now I can kind of play around a little bit as well. And I actually wonder if something like that might work a little bit nicer, to be honest. Bump that down a little bit. I like that larger bowl on the top. It's kind of got a fun little look for me here. And the other thing that I'm going to do too here, this is a neat trick. If you right click on a point here, and this is really true for when you start merging shapes, you right click and you do open corner. And Glyphs has this really handy thing where it takes each of these lines and it extends them out a little bit further. It does this little crossover little party thing going on here. And this is actually great because if you need to adjust things like the weight of this stem, which is kind of what I was after here, you don't have to worry about interrupting or messing up this curve down here. You can kind of do things a little bit separately from each other. So just a handy little trick there. But I think that's looking pretty good, I think. I like how that comes down. If I zoom out, yeah, I might actually, in all of my excitement, I'm probably going to step this up. Maybe a little bit like that. Just to give that a little bit more space to stand on there. And this might be a little bit small if you're watching, especially on a smaller device, but really what I'm looking for is just seeing how this is looking and how it kind of falls apart at smaller sizes. I don't think that's too bad. The other thing that I was just going to consider is I'm going to have this taper in a little bit too, just to help out with where this all meets up, making sure that everybody's happy there. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead, if it's going to let me, maybe it won't. No. I was actually just going to set this so that I'm only controlling this portion here. I'm just going to kind of adjust that a little bit. I'm kind of doing this a little bit by eye too, but I'm going to have this taper in a little bit as well because I think that would actually help it out some too. Just to kind of thin up where everybody's meeting up there, making sure everybody's nice and happy. So if I jump back out a little bit farther here, I think that works a little bit better. We're not causing too much of a traffic jam there. So now I've got this thing that I've got to decide here. I'm going to move up this 6 just to keep that glyph handy for a moment. And we're just going to take what we did with the 9 here because I'm curious to see how this comes out here. So I do want to keep these two numbers similar to each other because I think there's some good stuff going on there, and it's good to kind of keep a similar vibe between the two. But I'm just kind of wondering if maybe I need to make this bowl a little bit smaller. Because I think that would work. And I'm also going to bring in these a little bit too and just kind of round out the shape a little bit more. And again, I'm doing this a little bit by eye. We're just kind of making sure everything looks happy here. I think I'm actually okay with that. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to be bold, and I think we're going to roll with this here. It doesn't look too bad. Yep, I think we're going to call it on that. So moving over to the 2 and the 5 and debating which one I want to start with here. Let's go with the 5. Because the thing about the 5 is that we've kind of got that bottom shape there that I'm thinking we can commandeer the 8 or the 6 to get us going on that. I'm actually leaning towards the 6 maybe. Let's try the 6. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm also going to bring in a cap H here. And we're just going to steal some parts from this as well. Make sure we grab said correct parts so I'm not going all over the place here. And yeah, this is just going to be some balance work here. So a couple things that I'm going to grab is a vertical and a horizontal stem here. I'm just going to move this up. You probably see exactly where I'm going with this already. And then as far as this part goes up here, let's delete that. I'm going to get rid of these 2 points, get rid of the 2 strays there. Actually, got a little away from me. Let's try it this way, get rid of those. There we go. So that way I can keep these points. So what I have to figure out here is how this is going to meet up, and I think I might even kick that part out a little bit too. It's got a little happy dance going on there that I like. And then as far as making this all meet up, I think for at least what's going through my head is I think I'm going to just copy this and then let's just see where this takes us here. I don't know if having this going flat all the way across is going to look the best, if it's going to look like I'm doing exactly what I'm doing, if that makes sense. But I just want to see where this takes us. It could be cool. I guess this is to be determined here a little bit. I think actually, as I look at this, I'm going to move that in a little bit just to kind of create that taper along the top, that so it looks like it's got some balance there. And actually I don't think that's too bad. One thing that I am going to do, just because I'm here, so I'm going to widen that 7 out a little bit. I think that looks a little bit better. The other thing that I'm going to do, I think we're actually going to do the similar thing here for the 7.2 that we did for the 9 and the 6 as well. I'm going to open that up a little bit. I'm going to bump it out by 10. And then I'm going to move that top point back by 5. I think just thickening up that vertical stroke is going to help us out a little bit. Make sure my bearings are right, they are. And I think we're kind of there, to be honest with you. Everything's looking good to me. Just throw 3 in there too while we're at it. Not bad. I think I'm going to roll with this. So the last number I'm getting into is the 2. And for the 2, I think we're going to start with this here. So a couple things I have to take into consideration is that the top now needs to be narrower than the bottom. And we're not going to need this piece, we're not going to need this piece. And then it's just a matter of figuring out kind of my width here. It's because I know this bottom line here isn't really what I want. For giggles, I'm just going to use the width of the cap H to start, and I think this is going to be too wide. But I at least want to have a base that I can use when we're done with this, that I can go, that's why I did it. So yeah, that's going to be pretty wide. So we're going to bump it in by 20, maybe 30, 40. Maybe that's the way to go. We're going to center everything up too. I think I'm okay with that. And then this is just going to be a matter of bringing this down in a nice way to the bottom here. For something like this, I think what I'm going to do here is just use these 2 points. We'll kind of get them in a good place there. Let's see, so 70, wow, 85, that's actually a happy accident. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get that stuff lined up there. And then for these anchor points up here, or these Bezier curve handles I should say, I'm just going to make them even on both sides, and that's just kind of by eye there. I'm going to take these 2 and let's get these at a 90-degree angle if it wants to cooperate. Sometimes it doesn't. That's okay, we love glyphs anyway, right? So that looks like they're both popping straight now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start taking those up. This is actually going to be very similar to the S. So obviously, as you can see, as I'm playing around with this, that we get that spine a little funky, not exactly what we want to do. And then from here on, this is just going to be a point of figuring out how we want this to curve down. So it's going to be a matter of it's because kind of what I'm thinking here is I want to have the spine hit visually halfway, and then it's just going to be a matter of playing the thick and thin game and making this kind of the way we want it. Actually, I'm gonna, after I got done saying that, I'm changing my mind naturally. Might have that curve down a little bit more. Curve up, curve down. So I'm going to kind of punch that out a little bit too. I think that's actually going to help me out a little bit. And then it's just going to be a matter of getting this all to look right. So 87, 71, 88. So I really got to thicken this center chunk up here. I think for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to go 85 and 85. So that's my desired where I want it to be, 85 there. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to pop a couple of points here. And this is going to just help dial this stuff in the rest of the way. Because I don't think I could fully count on the rest of those points to really get me where I wanted to go. So we're going to go back to our favorite thing, speed bunk. And then it's just going to be a matter of just making these curves look a little bit nicer and smoother. And I mean, really, I don't think we have to do too much there. I mean, some of this is definitely going to be visual. That's okay. But I think that kind of gets us to where we want to be. Actually, while I do have this open, probably wouldn't hurt to go back to some of my other shapes here as well. Just kind of make sure everybody's in a happy place. Jump over. I think these were okay. I love the rainbow effect going on there. So this is going to get a little bit funky down here. But I think I'm going to let that roll. Actually, we'll do it this way. So we'll have that curve kind of come out a little bit more that way. And then we're just going to even everybody up here a little bit more. I think for here, this is kind of a similar deal. See, this is where I struggle. Like, do you go with your eye or do you go with the machine? I think I'm going to go with the machine on that. It's such a difficult thing sometimes. So we'll do the same thing here too. Actually, I'm just going to do it with this one. I'll just kind of smooth that as well. And then, yeah, I'm just going to leave it. I think that's going to be fine. So with that said, we're just going to do all my numbers here. And I mean, at a glance, I don't think that's too terrible. I mean, it looks like a solid set of numbers. I don't see anything egregiously standing out. I think obviously there's still a bit of work to go here. That too might be a little bit of a thorn in the side. Go figure that it wants to be a little bit of a cranky thing. Teenage years, rebellion, I don't know. But we'll just kind of see where this goes here. Really the difficult part with that one is going to be just making sure that my curves and everything are smooth on that. But I think for the time being, I'm just going to let it ride because I could really spend a lot of time on that. So that wraps up our numbers, and I was just going to point out as well, maybe the keen observers in the last episode noticed that we've got the little warning icons here. And really what that just means is that my metrics are out of sync. You don't see it on the rest of the alphabet because I was manually typing in the numbers earlier in the series. But since then, I switched it to using the side bearings of existing things, in this case, the cap O. What it's referring to there is if I go over to my heavyweight, which we'll eventually get into, you'll notice that it's kind of erroring out here. Simply, it's just because there's no glyph or any shapes in here at the moment. So it's just going to freak out. And if I keep trying to sync it, it's going to continue to do that. So eventually, that warning will go away. So with that said, we've got 3 things left on my screen here, and I think I'm just going to go through and pop those out real quick. As you can about imagine, the period is hopefully not going to take anybody by surprise. And we're just going to roll with that. And I think, too, for this, we're going to go with that. Although, actually, maybe it... Oops, don't need to sync anything there. Maybe go with something like that, so it's it current a little bit closer there. I think that's okay. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm also going to just adjust the overshoot there a little bit too. So I'm not sure that I really need as much of a radical overshoot like I did with the lowercase letters or even the uppercase letters. I think that works a little bit better. So, not sure if you were expecting more for the period, but there we go. For the comma, I think what I'm going to do here is we're going to stick with the circular shape here. We'll just go ahead and get my side bearings set up a little bit. And, as tempting as it is to make just a straight, almost like a prime mark, for the sake of a challenge, we're gonna make this a little bit fancier. So again, it's just going to be a matter of making this all kind of fit. I think we're going to just aim for something like that. Make sure that I put the right punctuation mark next door here. Decisions. We can actually go just a tad thinner there. And I'm not even sure that I need to make that as standing out as much as it was. I think we're going to do the same as what I've been doing before. So I'm going to go through, and in this case, I'm actually really close to this point here, so I think gotta remember which way this goes. Yep, that'll work. So we're going to delete one. We're going to open that corner. It's going to give us our little how do you do thing there. I'm also going to go through and get rid of that close point as well. So it's going to be coming from the top up there. I'm kind of debating too if I want to have some curve to this as well. Could be kind of fun. Let's see where this goes. I mean, it's not bad. It's the tough part is like I don't want this to stand out too much. I don't want to have this comma be making a big deal, and anytime you use it, that it's just going to look super obvious to the end user. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a comma. It's just, you know, how much do you want to allow it to have attention? And for me, the answer is not much. The other thing that I have to consider too is if I'm making this really small, I think I actually have to go a lot more on this chunk here. Let's really get it out there. The other thing that I'm going to do too is I'm just going to match these two up a little bit as well. We're really just going to give it a nice, long, gentle curve there. Actually, I think I went too far the other way. So let's try something like that. I'll clean this up in a moment, but yeah, I'm kind of wondering. Commas are tough. Maybe give it a little bit more oomph to it there. Again, just kind of going back and forth. I think we're getting there. I mean, at least it seems like it. I'm also going to just make this feel a little bit more like a 90-degree angle there. I am going to do this too. I'm just going to go in. And I'm going to give this just a little bit more of a curve to it. Make sure I'm only taking what I want here. Back that down a little bit as well. So maybe something like that. It does depart a little bit from the original period, but I think, and I use the term loosely, I think we're getting it. So again, my favorite, speed punk. Interesting that I wasn't that far off. That's a good feeling. Also just kind of bump that up a little bit too there. Other thing that I'm just kind of debating here. After a while, I think sometimes your eyes tend to play a few tricks on you. But I think just kind of get that to curve out a little bit more. I think that's going to work out better. So we'll pop out of there. Like I said, I could spend all day working on that. But the last thing we're going to work on, and then we're going to call this lowercase, or I should say this light case done, is the hyphen. And for the hyphen, we're not going to go too crazy with anything. What I'm going to do for this is I don't want to make it the full width of an N, because we need to save that for the N dash. But what I am going to do is use the N, and as soon as I grab all the right points, I should bring this down a little bit just so I can get this, but effectively, I just wanted the width of the negative inside space there. And then we can take this and move it up, maybe about right there, actually. I'm just thinking in line with the crossbar of the H. I think that's going to be okay. So, that pretty much concludes everything as far as this goes. I guess the last part I can look at here is the space, and I think for that think the rule of thumb is about the width of an eye. Oops. Of course, it helps if I learn to spell too. It's a key thing in typography is spelling words right, I suppose. I guess that's a good place to start. I could muck around with that a little bit more, but at the very least, we've got what looks like a pretty decent start to an alphabet here. And I mean, what's cool from this point on now is now that we've kind of got the structure down, that we can go back and really start to open things up a little bit as far as honing in on the style and kind of the final characteristic. In the next few episodes here, I'll probably be tackling some of the heavier weights. I know that's something that's already kind of been done here a little bit, but I think I'm just going to revisit these all together and really just determine where I want to go with this. I mean, it was good to get this heavier weight sorted out a little bit at the start, but now that I've got the rest of the alphabet put together, I may decide to go back here and just change my approach on a few things as well. But I think for now, this is a good stopping point. So if you enjoyed today's video, I would definitely appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button and the like button. If you're feeling extra special and you really want to make my day, I think there's still a bell on YouTube that you can hit so that you know when a new video comes out, which is typically every Friday. And last but not least, if you see anything in these videos that I could improve on, or you have suggestions, I always encourage everybody to leave a comment, because like I always say, these videos are as much about showing the typeface design process as it is teaching it and helping all of us, myself included, learn along the way. So anything you decide to do, it's all appreciated. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next episode.